Welcome to Saturday versus Sunday. I'm John Barban, and I want to talk about this story that's come out about Caleb Williams and specifically his father trying to avoid having Caleb drafted by the Bears. Now, this is all, there's a bunch of articles. I'm just looking at one on ESPN.com, but it's information that's coming out from Seth Wickersham. He's the author of a new book called American Kings, a biography of the quarterback. So within that book is where a lot of this information comes from. And he's quoted Carl Williams, Caleb's father, saying, quote, "Chicago is the place where quarterbacks go to die." And he's not necessarily wrong. They have a bad history with quarterback play. Even when they won the Super Bowl in '85, you could argue that was just because of a generational defense. And since then, they've been through dozens and dozens of quarterbacks. It's still, I think, the only franchise who hasn't had a 4,000-yard season passing, which is crazy because that's multiple GMs, that's multiple coaching staffs. So somehow that's a thing that sticks with this team, which doesn't make sense if you've been through that many GMs and coaches. It's somewhere along the line you think they could sort that out. Like I've always wondered how the personality or reputation of a team can persist beyond different coaching staffs and different management staffs. So maybe it is all the way to the top, like some top-down mentality that just permeates an organization. So I want to present both sides of this argument. So on the charitable to Caleb Williams and his father's side, you could say they have an argument here that this is where quarterbacks go to die. And unless a QB lands in a great situation, like, for example, Brock Purdy at the 49ers, who was the last pick in the draft, no hype about him, and he ended up going to the Super Bowl in his second year. So you could say that's a quarterback landing in the right spot with the right offensive coordinator and head coach who can actually develop him. So that's the argument for you've got to land in the right spot with the right team that can develop you, and the argument against going to the Bears. So you could see where that comes from. And he's not necessarily wrong thinking in those terms. Eli Manning famously did this. His Arch Manning worked it out so he didn't have to go to the Chargers. And I think John Elway did it too. I think he accepted getting drafted to the major leagues, which got him around his draft selection. But those are the only two major notable ones that I think have done this, or where they've chosen not to go somewhere. Now that you could say there's a precedent there. So all they're doing is what those other guys have done. But in this case, you could make the argument, the other side of the argument, that this is an entitled generation that is coming down from NIL, where he reportedly made upwards of $10 million in college. So you could make the other argument saying, oh, here comes the entitled NIL generation who's already showing up having made millions of dollars playing quarterback and wants to pick and choose how they want things to go. During this NIL era, they can transfer twice a year. They don't have to stay with the team for more than 6 months in college, and just constantly get different NIL deals at different schools, as long as any of those schools or collectives are willing to pay for these players. So the other argument is he's an entitled brat, and his father is just a meddling parent who's viewing his kid as an ATM that he wants to cash in on. He's like we said, he's already made reportedly $10 million just in college. So his father might just be viewing him as, oh no, he's worth way more than just whatever the rookie contract is. He's also quoted here as having quite pointed words about the rookie pay scale, and calling the collective bargaining agreement a piece of shit. And, who the hell is this guy to say that? So the NFL, it's impossible to make the argument that anything the NFL has done has been the wrong move. The league keeps making more money. It keeps getting bigger. The salary cap keeps going up. They're lapping every other pro sport. It's laughable how far ahead the NFL is from every other pro sport. They're all just a drop in the bucket rounding error compared to how popular and how much money the NFL actually makes. And you could even argue something about that is also bringing college football up with it. So now they're making a lot of money in college football too. So football is nothing the NFL is doing is they haven't made any wrong moves. You could argue they just keep making the collective of all the teams together, more and more money. And if one or two teams are bad at drafting quarterbacks, who cares? The league itself is healthy and the league itself is still growing. So from that standpoint, you could view them as them being Caleb Williams and his father is not seeing the forest for the trees and acting like it's a me, me, me. It's all about my kid. It's all about us. And acting like a draft pick is preordained to be great in the NFL. Lots of first overall picks are just average, and it doesn't matter what team they land on. You can't always just blame it on, oh, they went to a bad team, otherwise they would have been a Super Bowl champ. That's bullshit. You just don't know how they're going to turn out. The hit rate is about 50-50, and it's always been that, and it doesn't matter what team you go to. So from that standpoint, you could view this as a warning sign or the first wave of the entitled NIL generation with the meddling parent showing up, trying to tell the NFL how things are going to go, because that's the degree of power they had in college, where they could threaten to leave every 6 months. They could argue for more NIL money every 6 months. They could just have their cake and eat it too if they wanted in the last 4 years in college. And it could be, I'm not saying it is, but it could be this is an example of a new mindset where players show up who have already made $5, $6, $7 million. And then they're looking at the rookie contract saying 40, like, I'm worth more than that. And just completely ignoring that the NFL has arrived here through negotiations that keep growing the league and keep growing the pie for everybody. So it's a completely like self-focused concept. Like, oh, I don't want my son to play for Chicago. It's not like, oh, great, we'll be the quarterback who turns it around in Chicago. It's no, you guys aren't good enough for me. And that's super off-putting if that was really well known or more publicized at the time. Like, who the hell wants that type of player? It's like, to me, that's just telling me you're a completely selfish person. Again, if you want to flip it back to be charitable, you can make the argument that the Bears are pretty bad at developing QBs, and it's sort of played out because the coach and the coordinator got fired within the first year anyways. So I don't exactly know who's right or who's wrong here, but it does come across as completely self-centered and totally distasteful. And you're not hiring the goddamn father, you're hiring the player. So, but these kids are showing up young enough that their parents, are part of the team now, and they seem to be putting their nose in all of it and viewing their kid as, well, it's a package deal. You're hiring the kid and me, and we are going to make money, even though it's the kid's money, not the father's money. So yeah, that kind of irritates me. And I don't know what the agent, I don't know how the agents manage this. It must be very difficult with the meddling parent there. And I can already picture this happening with the Imalyaba brothers when either of them enter the draft. I mean, the father's already showing he's his hands are all over their dealings in college now. So I'm sure he'll be the next one, and I'm sure there'll be more. So this could be a sign of just a wave of entitled players coming in demanding. I mean, they were trying to get equity, a deal where they get equity in the team. Like, think of the degree of arrogance you have to have about how good you think you're going to be in the future to demand equity. Tom Brady just bought a tiny, tiny minority stake of the Raiders, and he's the greatest of all time. And this is after he retired and won 7 Super Bowls, and he finally had some cash to buy into a team. And this asshole wanted to show up and negotiate equity. Like, that's just insane. So the degree of hubris and arrogance there is off the charts. But this may be a sign of more of it to come. So I mean, if it's kind of hard to be charitable to their case, because we're talking about a $40 million contract that, who cares if it doesn't work out at the Bears? If he can show he's a quality player, he could still get another contract and play for a different team. Like, once you're in the league and you've established you can play at the NFL level, other GMs, other coaches, other coordinators aren't dumb. They can see talent if it's there, and they can tell the QB's individual talent from how crappy his team is, and he will get a shot on a better team at some point. Or as give Poles credit, the GM of Chicago, he got rid of the coach and the coordinator, and he's doing his best to give I mean, Brady's is hopefully going to be really good at the Bears if they don't hamstring him. He's proven to be the hottest commodity as a coordinator. So they're doing what it seems to take to give this guy the best shot. And again, the NFL has made almost no moves in the wrong direction. Everything here just keeps making the NFL more money. So for a player and his father to decide, and specifically the father, I don't even know if I put too much of this on Williams. The way this article is written and the way it sounds, his father was definitely sort of leading this charge here. Who the hell are they to say that the NFL is doing anything wrong here? So it just smacks of not seeing the forest for the trees. And it's just all about me. And it's just a super bad look from the father. I don't really put it on Williams per se, because if you go further into these articles, you'll see that it seems as though Williams, he eventually came around and said, I think I could make this work. But it's just a bad look. It's just a bad look. And I'm just wondering if more and more players are going to show up with this attitude who've made millions of dollars already in college, thinking they're all that, and yet have proven nothing at the NFL level. So anyways, that's my take on this. So try to see it from both sides. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is this just as obvious, or I don't know. What do you think about this whole story? That's your Saturday versus Sunday podcast.